Hi, friends. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And hi to all our friends in the future who are watching this. Um, I'm Ethan, and this is my dear, dear friend Vera, um, whom you'll meet in just a moment. We're talking today about setting intentions, and really sort of like we didn't put this in the bullet points, but I think of this as vision casting, and it's sort of like summoning that who do I want to be this year, and in some cases when I grow up, if I grow up. So that's the theme for today. And some of the big things that we'll talk about are going to be why resolutions so often fail and what do we do instead? How do we get vision clarity? Vera is going to lead us through an exercise in just a few minutes. We're going to talk about, Vera's going to work on a personalized intention statement, and there will be a chance to reflect and connect with one another just a little bit. As we get started, feel free to use the chat, obviously. You know how to do that by now. And I want to remind folks that we've got our cool counselor training program that's coming up. And this is sort of, this is the kind of sessions that we'll be doing throughout the year. So this is our first session of the counselor training program. Some of you who are on this call are already signed up for that. If you want to learn more, we'll put that in the chat and we'll follow up with more. But my very short intro for Vera is we've known each other for 24 years, and we met in college, and we were both really interested in theater. And I think to some extent, the reasons that I make up, Vera, that part of the reasons that I was drawn to the theater is part of the reason that you were drawn to the theater. We can confirm that. I think we've talked about this before. But part of the ways that Vera and I overlap is our lives have taken paths of like doing lots of focus on personal growth work and being in community and connection with others who are interested in doing that kind of work. And I'll let you share more about what you do. And then, yeah, I'm just grateful. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Ethan, so much. My college essay, have I sent you my college essay? I feel like this is a thing that we had a conversation when you were sort of first getting started with the college essay guy, which I guess is a long time ago now, where I revisited my college essay, and it really was about um, exactly what I still do, really about like finding and making meaning as an individual. And also then as an individual, how I relate in the world and to other people and to, a greater existence. Because the you will probably appreciate this. At the time, theater was my primary major, but I was also looking at being a double major in astrophysics and maybe psychology or psych services. So, um, and what I have done in my life is exactly that. I mean, that's like the best part about it. So what I do now is I am what I call a meaningful work coach. So I'm effectively a coach for people who want work that matters. Not just people who are looking to like climb a corporate ladder or who are trying to like make, millions and millions of dollars, although obviously some of that is involved. But really people who like want to make a difference, who have been in work that drains them and they can't do it anymore and they want to do something different. So some of my clients are, small business owners or, entrepreneurs, and some of them, stay inside of a more traditional work environment and want to transition. But that's really the core of the work that I do. And as I was getting ready for today, I was drying my hair and thinking about what was coming. And I told Ethan when we started, I was like, oh, I think I might be a college counselor for grownups. Like, I might be like, what, helping people get really clear about like, who are you? What's important to you? What do you aspire to do? And then how do we set you up to really make that happen in a wider world? So I don't know, I feel sort of excited to be talking to y'all today. I'm offering a couple of things today that are a part of a larger workshop, which is what Ethan was referring to, that I do at the top of every year. And I do something similar at the beginning of every quarter to help my clients and other folks plan. But those exercises are really about getting clear about where we are right now and what is the most thing that's important to us, to move forward. And what's tricky about planning for most people, and I would put planning and intention setting, I don't know, or like resolutions. I don't even know if people set resolutions anymore. Like if you want to just like you can raise your actual hand or drop in a chat like yes or no, like whether you actually set resolutions anymore. I don't know if people do this or if it's really passé. Um, I think most resolutions are based on this idea that there's something wrong with us, right? Like, um, I, I'm a female person. I like grew up in a female body. I have never been thin. Um, okay, Jay Kaiser set intentions goals. Great. Um, like that it's like, oh, well, I have to lose 10 pounds, right? And that 10 pounds is like, will somehow make me a better person or a happier person. And that often resolutions, I think, are set in that way. And that's one piece of that. And then the other piece of it is that resolutions are often set from a very critical part of our brain, which is not necessarily bad. Um, they are they're very analytical, right? And the reality is we are more than analytical, critical beings. There's a whole like rest of us. Not to like ignore the part that's below our neck. And so then when, my clients come to me or people say, oh, like, well, I'm just going to, I self-sabotage, right? I never, do the things I say I'm going to do. That goes back to your question earlier, Ethan, about like my identity, like that if my identity is a person who never does the thing I'm going to do, right? Oh, well, this year I'm going to do the things that I said I was going to do. That if we only come from that intellectual place and our unconscious, subconscious, emotional, spiritual, physical body isn't included in that planning process, they will win. It's unfortunately, when we look at organizational systems change and larger systems change, the way that we look at making big changes, there's a metaphor about an elephant and a rider. And this is detailed in a book called Switch, if you're familiar. And if you're not, we'll include that in the links that go out for that book. That the elephant is big and powerful and strong, and the elephant, if left unchecked, will just kind of do whatever, right? And the rider is up on top, and that is our our prefrontal brain, our analytical brain that like knows the best route to take, understands what is the most advantageous, and like sets us in that direction. But yeah, thanks, Alex. There's a link in the chat right now to this book from the Heath brothers, that your analytical brain can direct the elephant. Like that is absolutely possible. But if the elephant gets scared, if the elephant is hungry or thirsty, there's not a whole lot that the rider can do to literally override those directions. So my approach to this work is not to dismiss the analytical or the intellectual, but instead to bring all of the parts of ourselves to the party. And as Ethan said, my background is in the theater. Before that, I was a nonprofit fundraiser for 12 years, so that's fun. But I also have been a professional yoga teacher for about 11 or 12 years. So getting people into their bodies is something that I know really works. And I'm not going to ask you to do a bunch of yoga right now, but we do bring that sort of into this. So I want the other piece of, to me, what I call visioning, is about moving towards something rather than away from something. And if we can find a direction that feels really inspiring, not just because it makes sense, but also because we feel inspired and moved towards it, then that starts to bring all of the pieces of ourselves together. And you probably have said this phrase, is that, if you can't see it, you can't be it. That if we don't have examples of what's possible, then we tend not to dream really big. And I think especially when we're like in the day-to-day grind and like we, have all of these obligations, and I have enough friends who work both in universities and in high schools, to know like between administrations and students and parents and all of the other folks that like there's so much pressure that like having the moment to step a step back and really go, what is important to me? What do I believe about myself and about the world? And where do I see myself fitting into that is a really powerful practice. And it's also really vulnerable, because then we are starting to put real skin in the game. We're starting to put an important part of ourself into that planning process and into the work. So I really, I do this exercise, the visioning exercise I'll lead you through in a minute, for myself. It's a little meta. I have a recording of myself that I use. And I listen to myself, to help set my own intentions and visions for the coming period. And then I use that, to begin to build out a more analytical plan, with KPIs and, goals and tactics and outcomes and tasks and tracking. So I want to pause before we get into it and just, ask how many of you already have, either a word for the year or have, sort of your planning in place. Let's just say for the first quarter of this year or for all of 2024 so far. And you can drop that in the chat. If you do, you can raise your hand. Yeah, share in the chat. Felicia says not me yet. No, the word for the year is presence. Julie, I love that. Short, smart goals. I love it. Short, smart goals. 40% done with 2024 planning. Ethan, I'm impressed. Balance, expansion, imperfection. Ooh, Felicia, embodying flux. Gratitude. You guys are, you're nailing it. I love all of these answers. Erin, your word is quiet. I see you. I know what that means about the rest of your environment. Motivation and passion. Yeah. So I'm so glad to see those things, and I think based on your answers, that you might enjoy this. So I do. Before we dive in, I want to say sometimes stepping into this kind of visioning exercise, might feel a little unusual, especially if you don't have any kind of meditation practice or anything like that. And I want to acknowledge that it's okay if it feels a little weird. Like that's really fine. I want to challenge you, to give it a shot and just see what happens, because it's the next 10 minutes of your life, and if you hate it, you can go on about your day. I do think that the other thing that comes up through these visioning exercises sometimes, are so big, they're intimidating or maybe even scary. I love this notion that, uh, it's not our darkness that most frightens us, it's our light. It's like how big and powerful we could possibly be. So as we step in, I want to encourage you to make some space for whatever might happen. And to know too that if you do feel overwhelmed or you do want somebody to just like bounce it back and forth with, I'm available for that, and there'll be a moment, when we come to the end here if you want some more details. I also have a follow-up worksheet that I use with clients, that we will share for you if that's something that you would like, at the end of the session. So if you are in a place where you can sort of settle, maybe put down your pen, take a quick sip of water, begin to make yourself a little bit more physically comfortable, right? So like, good moment to just shrug your shoulders up to your ears, inhale, and then just exhale, let them go. And just as we do that, we start to become aware of what's happening in the body, whatever is happening. And if you're in a place that you can close your eyes and it feels okay to close your eyes, I encourage you to do that. But if closing your eyes isn't possible or it's uncomfortable, can you just soften your gaze? So you're not looking out at the room around you, you're just letting your focus get shallow and soft. And whether your eyes are open or closed, just let your eyes themselves start to soften. Letting the inner and the outer corners of the eyes soften and widen, maybe releasing any tension that's held in the brow, softening your jaw. Can be helpful to breathe out through your mouth, just a little exhale sigh. And just start to notice how your breath rises, your natural breath, where you feel your breath in your body. Noticing the breath's natural rate. You also might find that simply by bringing attention to your breath, the breath starts to slow down a little bit or get a little deeper. You don't have to force anything to happen in the breath, just watch it as it naturally evolves. Start to feel your physical body. Notice the way that your feet are resting on the ground. Notice the support underneath your seat, maybe behind you if you're leaned back. And before we really dive in, I want you to take this next breath to release any expectation of what is about to happen. To let go of your forward future thinking and to just allow yourself to be surprised by your own imagination, your own vision. In a moment, we're going to imagine ourselves forward 6 months from today to July 10th of 2024. And when we arrive on that day, the best of all possible outcomes has happened. And it's actually better than that. It's more than we ever could have hoped for. Things turn out better than we ever could have known. So finding your breath again and taking a nice rich inhale and a complete exhale and using the breath to transport ourselves forward. And here we have arrived on July 10th. And it is early in the morning in our own beds. Even before you wake up, in those early moments, that liminal place, feel what it's like to be in your bed, in your space. What's the temperature in the room where you are? It's the texture of your bed. And in the vision, as you start to come awake, notice what the light in the room is like. And before anything else happens, there is this feeling of anticipation and excitement for your day. You are thrilled with what happens today. Beginning to see or feel yourself turn and come out of bed and plant your feet on the floor. And as you come to standing in your bedroom, your body feels extraordinary. What does it feel like to be in a body like this one? On our next breath, we will transport ourselves forward into the routine of the morning on this day. Nice, complete breath in and full breath out. What does your routine of this morning look like? What are you doing? Are you with other people or are you alone? Knowing that this morning is preparing you so that you feel calm and present and ready. And then allowing your next breath to transport you into the heart of your day. Nice, full, complete inhale. And complete exhale. Here you are doing activity that feels so rewarding. You are naturally talented at it and it excites you at the same time. Perhaps you feel the ease of that feeling of flow. Where are you? What's the environment like? Are you with other people or are you alone? What kind of activity are you doing? Beginning to allow this heart of your day to wrap up. And on our next breath, we will transport ourselves to the evening time. Nice, rich breath in and full breath out. Where are you? What are you doing and how does it feel in your body? What are the sensations in your chest and your belly. Are you with other people or are you alone? And then finally, on this next breath, transporting ourselves right back into bed at the end of this long and fulfilling day. Full breath in, complete breath out. Notice the natural fatigue of a day well lived, not exhausted, but pleasantly tired. As you start to settle into sleep, you can't help but that smile come across your mouth. There's a natural gratitude that rises because, oh my God, this is your life. And slowly fading into sleep, there's a tiny moment, a sparkle of excitement for what's coming tomorrow. And then finally, a nice, rich breath in and an exhale out. And you have arrived back into your body, into this room on January 10th. Feeling again the way the feet touch the ground, the support underneath your seat. Perhaps beginning to move your hands or your fingers or feel the texture of your legs, your pants. When you're ready, just starting to blink your eyes open and notice what you see in the room around it. And without thinking too much, take a moment and just jot down the headlines of what you saw. It might just be words. You might want to describe an image, but capture the things that you experienced. And just as a gentle reminder, the pieces were waking up in the morning, that morning routine, the heart of your day, your evening, and then settling back into bed. There is no rush here, but because we're not all in the same room, I can't tell when you're complete. So if you just want to let me know in the chat when you're done writing what needs to be written. I'm gonna wait for just a couple more folks based on how many of you are here. Again, there's no rush. And part of the exercise I will share with you are some more detailed questions, but I think it's important for us to capture as much of this as we can. You might find in the next couple of days that, or even the rest of today, that you'll be like, oh, and then that other thing happened. So you can always return to this, revisit it. Michelle says she needs to do this one daily. It's a lot of pressure, Michelle. I don't think I could do this one daily, but it's good. I'm so glad that to hear that some of y'all really loved this. I love it too, obviously. So I want to ask a couple of questions to help you reflect on that. And the first is, um, what in your usual routine or your usual day wasn't in this vision? Is there something that you do regularly, or that's whether that's in your day-to-day life or your work life that just wasn't even there? And um, this is one of my two favorite questions of reflection on this. Feel free to share what feels appropriate in the chat. You feel comfortable sharing with the group. Mm. Heather says she wasn't worrying. Not interesting? Ah, Jeff nailed it. This is my very favorite one, that constantly being on the phone. Phone nowhere in the vision. This one happens to me every single time. I'm like, wait, where was Facebook and scrolling Instagram and being worried about checking my emails? No part of that happened. Yeah, Alex says there's no noise. Wow, yeah. And Chelsea wasn't rushing. Felicia, administrating and managing was not there. No alarm clock. Oh, interesting, Joycelyn. Robin, Robin shares, putting my needs aside and doing what fills me up instead. I'd be really curious for you to dig into that a little bit deeper. Um, and I say that because one of the things that often comes up in this exercise that can be really challenging for people, is if there's a big discrepancy between what their daily life is and what the vision is, that um, putting down everybody else's needs and doing what is the most important to us first is often what comes up challenging. So I'm curious, what that sort of, how that played out. Oh, not stuck in your office, not working. Oh, Shannon, I love this. This is one of the things that came out in the workshop on Sunday, as somebody said, I was not worried at all about making money. Like, earning a living was not part of my vision. I was like, well, okay, so that's good to know that, like, maybe we don't all aspire to commerce, um, and that's okay. A lot of other people's needs come up in the moment. So envisioning the future that wasn't there. That's really interesting, Alex. Oh, Julie, much more variety in your vision. That's really cool. Um, is there anything that you saw or felt or experienced that surprised you? Either at the moment, like sometimes we're sort of watching ourselves doing it and we're like, what is even happening? Um, and sometimes it's reflecting back. Like I remember doing one of these visions and I was pregnant in the vision. And even in the vision, I was like, well, that's real complicated and I don't know how that's going to play out. Making music with your husband. Oh, Jamie, I love your word connection. Yeah. Anything else that surprised you? Calmness. Yeah. The day felt intentional. So, one of the things I love about this exercise is it gives us a felt sense of what a day in that life might look like. So, this is why I go back to what I said before, like if you can't see it, you can't be it. That usually when we set goals for ourselves or we set like intentions, we tend to let them be incremental, which is good. Like it's really useful, but it removes the opportunity or the possibility for um, what I would call like, major transformation, right? Allowing ourselves to be really fully ourselves as often as possible. Thanks, Iris, so much. Calmness, pleasant. Did anyone fall asleep? Yeah, did you fall asleep while we were doing the visioning exercise? That to me is really interesting. Um, and I'll say that for two reasons. One, it tells me something about maybe how well you slept last night or how well rested you are on a general basis. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. You might just like, you might already know, like, well, yeah, I was real tired, Vera. So, um, the other thing that I just, and this might be true for you, Michelle, it might be true for somebody else on the call, that doing an exercise like this can be incredibly frightening. Maybe not for the rider, but for the elephant. Because we think, like, what happens if, for example, I do this visioning exercise and I'm not in the job that I'm doing right now that I really need to pay my mortgage? What if I do this exercise and my long-term partner isn't there, or my partner is someone different, right? There is this, there can be this really unsettling experience of how different our life might be. It's not always that way, but that it might be, and that just the prospect of I might have to really change something, or I might have to give up something that I have been like, I don't know if you guys are like me. I tend to hold on to things until they've got claw marks in them. Letting go is not my strength. Um, and that the idea of having to let go of some things can be really scary. And also, like the prospect of doing something new or taking a chance on real happiness and fulfillment is actually pretty terrifying. Like I use that word vulnerable up front. Vulnerability is the practice of putting something that is really important to us at risk. And so sometimes doing these kinds of visioning exercises brings to the surface this like deep dream, these like, even like this deep knowledge that like a physical or spiritual part of us knows is possible, but that the writer has been talking us out of for all of these years. Oh no, I couldn't possibly do that because X, Y, and Z. And I think I have a whole lot of, I just have so much empathy for that. Um, the reason I do the work that I do is because I spent 12 years building a very successful career as a nonprofit fundraiser. I was well respected. I had great jobs. I made pretty good money, and I was like at the height of my career at the time, and I was miserable. Um, every morning, I had to literally give myself a pep talk to get out of bed in the morning. And right, claw marks. I was like, no, but I can't let this go. I just bought a new car. I have a mortgage. There's no way that I could do that. And and the moment that I finally was like, oh God, I just can't do it anymore. There was this sense of ease and calmness, but it is not. uh, it was rough to get there, and it's really scary. And so I also say that like there might be like this might not be the right moment for this exercise for some of us, and that's okay too. Um, there are some other questions that I use this when I work with clients, when I work in workshops, to frame this. The work that Ethan and I did together was like 3 hours. So I was like, we can't do all of that in this shorter period. But there's some further exploration questions, and specifically to get us down to some really tangible, practical, like small actions that we can take to start to move in that direction. So that will be available if you're interested. We'll drop. I think we're going to share that link. If you're interested, and I'll send that to you if you want to be in touch. And also, if you just want to share directly with me what your experience was, I would like really love to hear it. I love doing this exercise. I love leading this exercise. I also want to say that as like a placeholder, maybe you might find in the next day or week that some tiny part of this exercise shows up in your daily life, right? So, very broad example. Oh, like here's a simple example. When I did this visioning exercise for my first quarter, I saw myself, you guys will laugh probably, I'm laughing at myself. I saw myself on Zoom working with people to like help solve problems and like do like really meaningful project based work. So like as I was getting ready for this, I sort of chuckled. I was like, maybe this is what I was seeing. But I'll tell you that now if people ask me to do that kind of work, I will say yes. So if maybe part of what you saw was right, like making music with your husband, when your husband says, hey, we haven't sung together in a while, and you have 8 things you have to do for your workday tomorrow, this vision might give you the permission to be like, yeah, honey, let's do that. Actually, that makes me really happy. That if that's the only thing that comes out of this, I think it's just like it can be really beautiful work. And I do also want to say, if this is unlocking something for you that you want to explore more, and you feel like working with a coach would help you, I would love to talk to you more about that. That is the only sell you will get. I love working with people to help build the life that is right, better than the one that they could have imagined. So I want to close in just a minute with an exercise that is an intention setting exercise. But before I do that, I want to make sure that if there's anything else that you wanted to share about your vision, about what surprised you, what was there that you want to move towards, or what wasn't there that you want to start to let go of. If it needs to be like witnessed by the group, I would love for you to share it in the chat. Good. Yeah. Makes sense that like that's during summer break and you're not sure where you'll be. Yeah. Oh, Shannon, I'm so glad you found clarity and a decision that you've been working through. Marilyn, I'll share my contact information shortly. Fully creative. Oh, Heidi, interesting. You weren't doing a specific job, so now you're feeling more stressed, anxious, right? About it's like, why don't I know? Um, that's one of the other things that this can bring up. And I do actually want to acknowledge one of the challenges of this exercise. I'm not a hypnotist. I'm going to start by saying that. I'm not hypnotizing you, but about 10% of the population can't be hypnotized. And this kind of, visioning, or sometimes it's called trance work, is in that category. So if when I was leading you through, you're like, I don't see anything, I don't know what's happening, I like this is dumb, there's nothing wrong with you. Like that's really okay. There are other ways to get at this kind of work, but for some people, it's not effective. Heidi, I do want to come back to like that feeling of like, why didn't I know? Why didn't I get grand clarity in this moment? And I would say you just didn't yet. Like maybe you're not there yet. Maybe it does need to be explored from a different direction. There might be other things in the vision, right? It's like I'm seeing, like what Jamie said, like I approached it from a more personal view, that there might be other parts of your life that like were made a little bit more clear. And that sometimes just by following those, like as an example, I never intended to be a full-time yoga teacher. That was not the plan ever. I started my teacher training not intending to teach yoga. But that sometimes when we follow just the natural excitement, the things that we love, the things that we feel passionate or excited about, um, the world starts to open up around them. That doesn't mean that you will completely change careers. I don't recommend that people quit their job without another job, which is what I did. That is not how I advise my clients, actually. But I think that there is still like sometimes what actually might have happened is that there might just be some space around it right now, and that a lack of clarity or an uncertainty may just be an invitation for your curiosity around what's happening. Hmm. Yeah, I love that, Alita. Like, I, I love the transition into retirement or even semi-retirement, um, for lots of reasons that I'm not going to get into because I would talk for a really long time about it. There's a freedom that for some people is really intimidating. I work with some clients who are in that transition. It's really hard to let go of the like structure and all of that full-time work has created for them. But I think it does. It gives you it opens up some other possibilities. So I just want to thank you guys. I want to acknowledge like this work is really vulnerable. It's really, it can be really scary. And even just stepping in to explore it is, I think, is a win. So I hope that you can just take a moment to congratulate yourself for that. And we're going to close with what is a hybrid of really a yogic visioning exercise. It's called a Sankalpa meditation. And the word Sankalpa means like, um, sun is like with things. So this is like a way of like being with ourselves, with the layers. So just like we went into the visioning exercise, I'm going to invite you to just ground, be present, be where you are. And if it's okay for you to close your eyes, you can close your eyes. We'll have a moment at the end of this for reflections too. So you don't have to say goodbye yet. Just a couple of minutes to just close your eyes and arrive back in your body and like maybe find the elephant inside you and the rider on top. Feel your body. Feel the temperature in the room around you, the way that your clothes wrap your body, sensations of being in this body. And let your breath start to rise and get a little fuller and a little deeper. And from inside the breath, allow a statement of desire to rise. So a statement of, I want. It might be something that you saw in the vision you want to move towards. It might be something you already know, something you want to work on. I want. Let that I want statement land in your body and receive it on the breath. And then asking, why do I want that? What is inside of that desire? What will that bring into my life? And finding the I want statement, the desire statement inside of that. And just stating it to yourself, I want. Receive it on the breath. And perhaps asking yourself again, well, why do I want that? What will that bring? Continuing this unlayering process until you land on what feels like a core or a distilled statement of I want. And you might find that it's quite simple. I want. And when you find that central statement, let it breathe in the body. Just let it live here. And now to transform this into a Sankalpa, we replace the words I want with I am. I am. You might need to adjust the phrasing just a little bit. And receive that last Sankalpa, that I am statement on an inhale. And then exhale. And just gently open your eyes. I'm going to welcome you back. And if you feel called to share that I am in the chat, I would love to receive them. I love these. And I hope that it creates a helpful framing for you moving forward in this year. I am thriving. I am free. I am light. Oh, I am spontaneity. I am able to choose. Oh, so good. I am not an imposter. I love it, Trong. I am strong. I am balanced. Oh, Shannon, that landed for me and my body. I am enough. I am enough, just as I am. Thanks, Sarah. I'm fully alive. I just want to say thank you guys so much for showing up and being with us today. Um, I think that Ethan is going to share some resources for you guys at the end. There will be a follow-up email, I understand, including the recording. And in that will be a link to sign up to get the visioning exercise. Yeah. And just full transparency, when you sign up for that, you'll get added to my email list. I send emails like once a month if I'm lucky. So I hope not to overwhelm you.
They're really good emails. I love your emails.
Thanks so much.
I was saying to Alex before we started, first of all, thank you, Vera, like so much. It's such, I don't know, I experience such spaciousness when I listen to you facilitate, and I have insights. I had another insight just now that it's so fresh. I'm like not ready to share it, but I'm
That's
like
fine. Yeah.
excited to share it with. Um, but thank you. And for anyone who's sort of like, I mean, this work is enough and whole and like a good place to be like, that's a good chunk. And if there's anyone who's like cool, interested in making some plans, um, my friend and colleague Angel Perez, some of you know Angel, sent me a really lovely piece from the Harvard Business Review, of all things, about applying strategic thinking to finding purpose in our lives.
Don't sleep on the Harvard Business Review for what it's worth. It's so good. I love
It,
it.
I mean, so it's the title of the piece is using strategic thinking to create the life you want. And so it's applying concepts from business to thinking about our lives. And how it's been meaningful to me is like, I think I'm pretty good about purpose and vision and mission as it relates to my work. But the first question that it asks is, well, what does success look like for you? Like, what would success mean?
Mm.
And I'm like, whoa, that's a good one to chew on here at the start of the year, both professionally, as I think about college essay guy, for example, but also personally, like, what does success look like? So I'm enjoying revisiting that. And then there are like 7 steps in this article that you can dig into. So I'll put that in the chat. We'll follow up with
I'm
it.
looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's lovely, really yummy, and lots of,
Yeah.
yeah, it gives me a path of things to do. So
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you again. I'm so grateful. Thanks y'all for showing up and being here in community and connection with us. And yeah, we'll see you on the next.
Y'all have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye guys. Let's see. That was a question. When